Hey everybody, welcome back in the shed. I'm Troy. This is Dave.
Hello.
And today the topic is the top 3 keyboard intros. And we don't know each other's picks. I don't know Dave's. He doesn't know mine. We just kind of come up with the topic or the subject and we just kind of run with it. So that's what always makes this fun, because I don't know what he's picked and he doesn't know what I picked.
Nope.
So let's just get rolling. What's your number 3 keyboard intro?
Well, number 3 keyboard intro is going to be Bloody Well Right by Supertramp. I love this song, and it really has one of the best piano keyboard intros, I think, of all time. You know, I was always trying to figure out was played on. I think it was played on like a Wurlitzer piano. Oh, it sounds like a kind of like a Fender Rhodes, but it's got a really kind of unique, timbre to it. They released that song on their 1974 album, Crime of the Century, which I actually have on a compact disc. It was actually released as a B-side to that song, Dreamer. You know that song?
Maybe.
Dreamer, nothing but a dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It ended up kind of like breaking through and, hitting, I think, number 35 on the Billboard charts.
I'm trying to think of how it goes. How does it go? How does it start off? I know the song, but I'm trying to refresh my memory.
It's got a really kind of long keyboard intro into it, but of course you're going to hear it.
Well, I'll hear it when I put this together, but I can't think of what it is right now. But
it's instantly recognizable once you hear it.
Yeah.
Right, you're bloody well right. You got a bloody right to say.
But I love Supertramp, and there's so many great songs, but that one's always kind of been right at the top for me for Supertramp.
My number 3 is a tie. I'm going to put 2 songs in here, only because they're off the same album. But it is Van Halen, 1984, the little intro that leads into Jump. But then this morning I was laying in bed and something hit me, and the song I'll Wait popped into my head.
Sure.
And I thought, well, that's a great little keyboard synthesizer intro as well.
We've talked about that album before. We've talked about Eddie being, a keyboardist from when he was a young man and boy, growing up, and
they changed their sound quite a bit on that album. They had a lot more synthesizer keyboard stuff going on, but it's still a rocking album. Great production. I think from what I've read and from interviews that I've seen, I think it was the last straw for David Lee Roth, because I think he was, he's like, what are you doing? You're a guitar player, man. You're a guitar virtuoso. Why are you playing keyboard stuff? And I think that was that wasn't the
But it became their biggest selling song.
Yeah.
During the Roth era, Jump was.
Yeah.
And really, the beginning of the album starts with that song, 1984.
Yeah.
Which is just,
it's just that synthesizer keyboard stuff. Yeah.
And then it cuts into, Jump.
Which is more keyboard.
Which is more keyboard.
Yeah.
And guitar. That's what Eddie was, pining to do for years.
Yeah.
Because he'd done some stuff on Diver Down that had keyboards in it. But obviously that song became Van Halen's signature song, I guess you could say. If there is
You talking about Jump?
Yeah, Jump.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the keyboard intro called 1984.
Yeah.
And the one that leads into I'll Wait.
Yeah,
it's the same, that same sound, which is a great sound, and it was actually performed on a Obermann QB-XA synthesizer.
Oberheim.
What did I say? Oberheim.
Keith Oberman is what you said.
Keith Obermann, yeah. Keith Obermann, he was the inventor of the synthesizer.
No, it was Oberheim. We discussed that because, you know, a lot of other artists, you know, like Rush and Prince and all them have used that same synthesizer.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of like Kurzweils and Rollins and stuff that were coming out at that time. But
Everybody had to use the newest thing, you know, back then. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, it's a great intro for sure.
So the album actually reached, the 1984 album, which came out in 1984, January of 1984, it actually reached a peak of #2 on the U.S. Billboard 200 chart and stayed there for 5 consecutive weeks. So the album that kept that album from reaching the #1 spot is, can you guess what it is?
Purple Rain?
No. Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Really?
If there was never a Michael Jackson Thriller, I guess Van Halen 1984 would have reached the #1 spot.
But it was
didn't.
chock full of hits, and it was a great album. It was really one of the greatest albums of 1984.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I can remember, because I was 13 when that came out, and I remember riding my bicycle around the neighborhood, and I would. Back then, everybody had loud stereo systems. You know, they had the cool trucks, you know, and they had the speakers behind the seats, you know,
and the boom boxes.
The Pioneer, they had Pioneer 6909s or 6908s or 7, whatever the hell they were. And I can still remember riding my bike around the neighborhood and around the school, and you could these high school kids who, you know, you looked up to when you're, you know, 7th and 8th grade. And I can still remember hearing that 1984 intro as they're cruising by and cruising the drag and stuff, and thinking, what is that, man? It sounds so freaking cool. It was so cool. I love that album. It's definitely one of my favorite albums of the 80s. But anyway, that's my #3 keyboard intro. What's your #2?
#2 is going to be Baba O'Riley by The Who. This classic song came out on The Who's seminal Who's Next album in 1971. It was a lead-off track off that album, and of course it became known by most people as, you know, Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah.
That's what everybody called it. But, you know, Pete was kind of, you know, playing around and messing around with synthesizers and stuff at that point. And he, you know, programmed that little keyboard riff into this, like, synthesizer and a repeating pattern and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it was, you know, really kind of unique at the time. It became, you know, The Who's one of their biggest, best known, and best loved songs ever. But, you know, it's really hard for me to pick a favorite, you know, Who song or anything like that, because The Who are one of my probably top 5 bands of all time, if I had to pick. You know, that one stands out, and that song is one of my favorite songs of all time, too. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Baba O'Riley as #2.
I had a feeling you would pick that, and that's I probably wouldn't have picked it anyway, but yeah, I had a feeling you would pick it. But I think we talked about this before. So my grandmother had an old organ from like the 70s, and it had sort of synthesizer sounds on it.
Really?
And it would play something very similar to that. You just hit a button and it go
Right.
And when I first heard that song later on, you know, probably, you know, because I was a kid and I didn't know The Who when I was a kid. But
Well, that album came out the year you were born.
well, that's why. Yeah, I didn't. But I remember the first time ever hearing that song, I thought, oh my God, that sounds just like my grandmother's organ.
Really? She must have been a cool grandma.
Because it had like drum loops on there.
I remember those. I remember those.
I had it. When my grandmother died, that was one of the things I wanted from her. And so it sat at my one of my mom's houses, the party house, for many years. And then a couple of years ago, I went back home and I go, well, what happened to the organ? My mom was like, well, I sold it. I'm like, wait, you sold my organ? It didn't work very good anyway.
Well,
anyway,
anyways.
that's a good number 2. My number 2 is going to be Boston Foreplay. So it came out on Boston's debut album that came out in 1976, and it's the intro to the song Long Time.
Sure.
But when you hear the song Long Time on the radio, they always put the foreplay, even though it is a separate song, it's foreplay leads into Long Time, you always hear foreplay going into Long Time.
Can't cut it, man.
Yeah, you can't cut them, there's no place to cut it. In an interview with Schultz,
Tom Scholz.
Tom Schultz, who was the founder of Boston and pretty much the original, he did it all on that first album, I think, correct?
In his basement.
Yeah. That song Foreplay was the very first piece of music he had ever written.
Really? I didn't know that.
And he recorded it on a 2-track.
Really?
In his basement, yeah.
He was a brilliant guy. You know, he was like an MIT guy, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. And of course, he was a great musician, but he was also an incredible engineer. And
Yeah.
and you know, he engineered all these great sounds that everyone just went, wow,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
amazing. You
Yeah.
know, even he had his Rockman that he came out with later that I always wanted to get one of those.
Well, what's a Rockman? What was
It
that?
was like a little, it's the size of a Walkman, but it had some of these, you know, early, I'd have to say pre-effects kind of, you know, there's a lot of pedals and stuff that were out back in the day, but Tom was just an incredible engineer and he could come up with these unique sounds and everything. And he was a, you know,
Smart guy.
he was a smart guy and a great musician.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
played
mean,
lead guitar and played everything.
you listen to those Boston albums, that one and you know, from the 70s and early 80s.
They were sonic masterpieces.
They-
I mean,
the production-
that album, what made that album so stand out, and I moved to North Carolina in 76, and that album just came out, and I bought it, and it was like, nothing sounded really
Yeah.
like that because the sound quality was impeccable.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, it sounds so good, and the sounds he was creating with the synthesizers and the guitars and the effects he's put it was just
Yeah.
freaking incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It's been such a long time. I think I should be going.
Yeah, so he actually wrote that song Foreplay in 1969. So he actually wrote it almost 10 years before he recorded it for their debut album.
Or 7 years. Yeah, yeah.
The 69 to 7, no, it came out in 78.
No, the album came out in 76.
Was it 76?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 76, 78.
Well, I remember that.
I was a kid.
I remember 76 because it was an important time in my life when I had just moved, and there was a few albums out there at that time that were just like, you know, Thin Lizzy Jailbreak and, you know, Orleans and, you know, Boston, all these albums that were massive hits in the summer of 76.
You're right, 76. I was wrong. Anyway, that's my number 2. What's your number 1? And I'm wondering if it's going to be the same as mine, but probably not. But let's find out. What's your number 1?
All right. My number 1 is going to be Procol Harum's Lighter Shade of Pale. It was Procol Harum's debut single off their first album, and it came out in 1967.
We skip the light fandango.
It was really one of those songs that fell into that, summer love thing that was going on at the time, along with, so much other great music.
I was feeling kind of seasick. The crowd called out for more.
It's one of the biggest singles of all time and has sold over 10 million copies worldwide.
Wow. What's funny is I actually heard that on the drive down here yesterday. I heard it on the
The Procol Harum version?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's cool. It's been covered over 1,000 times. And, it's really one of the best known songs of all time. Like I said, it's been covered so many times. Back in the day, I bought this album, and it was called Hagar, Sean, Aronson, and Shreve. Have you ever heard of those guys? Well, it was Sammy Hagar,
Okay.
Neil Sean, Kenny Aronson, who'd been playing bass with everybody, and Michael Shreve, who was famously Carlos Santana's drummer and played at Woodstock.
We skip the light fandango. Turn some cartwheels across the floor.
It was another one of those versions that were covered, and it wasn't a great song. It was a little reverb heavy.
Okay.
And the mix wasn't that great. And of course, Neil Sean just, soars over it.
I've never heard that version before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll hear it now.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pick a greatest intro keyboard song, but I got a slight idea what I think you might pick as your number one.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, when you came up with this topic, this wasn't on my radar at first. I didn't even think about it, but I had to I put it in the Google generator, and I was like, of course. What is it?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you said Mr. Crowley.
That's it.
All right.
Ozzy Osbourne, Mr. Crowley. It was the second of two singles off Ozzy's debut album, Blizzard of Oz, that came out in 1982 or 1?
I think it was
Was that 81? I think it was 81.
81.
The first single was, of course, Crazy Train, but the song, Mr. Crowley, was inspired by a book that Aleister Crowley wrote, The Diary of a Drug Fiend, which Ozzy had read. So he got inspired, that book inspired him to write the song Mr. Crowley.
Mr. Crowley, what went on in your head?
Well, maybe his follow-up album, Diary of a Madman, was inspired as well. Right?
Probably.
Diary of a madman.
So the song, of course, starts out with this sort of organ, creepy intro performed by Don Airey. And I think Ozzy, told him, hey, I need some kind of like creepy intro to this song. So Don was like, hey, everybody leave. Give me 30 minutes. Come back, I'll have something for you. And he came up with that intro in 30 minutes. The band came back, Ozzy came back, and he played it for him, and Ozzy was like, you plugged into my head. That's exactly what I wanted. And now it's iconic.
Obviously, one of the standout tracks off Blizzard.
Yeah.
And it's really one of his, signature songs. If you can pick one from that Randy Rhoads era. But I would have to say the intro, that lead guitar, the singing by Ozzy, it's really, it's really one of the more complex songs off that album
Yeah.
because it has different kind of, moods and stuff going on. And Randy just freaking soars on that.
I've been thinking about this lately. You listen to some of those classic rock albums. First of all, most they're so well produced, and they're so precise with their timing, and they're just everything sounds so good. And they didn't have Pro Tools. They didn't have computers to fix this stuff.
They were
These
just
guys were just like
great musicians.
great musicians that went in there and they just recorded this stuff, and it sounds so incredible. And the older I get and the more I listen to some of these classic rock songs, the more I can really appreciate how talented some of these guys were, man.
Yeah.
That's what I love about when I watch Rick Beato, because he'll really dive into some of these songs and talk about, the structures of them and how they recorded things and what makes these songs so great. And
The stuff that bores most people to tears. but no, I dig it. Rick and and Troy and I are big fans of Rick, and a lot of other these YouTube guys out there that really delve deep into the intricacies of songcraft, and I eat that shit up like with a spoon.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. And I think that's why I don't really appreciate or like too much of the newer rock because it's so sterile, and you can tell that they it's all like, okay, we played this little drum part, let me do loop. You know what I mean? It doesn't take as much talent.
Get off my lawn! No. We try not to sound like old fogies because we try to be hip, everything.
Yeah.
But, I totally dig what Troy's saying, and I totally can appreciate what he's talking about. And it's not just like Ozzy in the 80s, but 70s and the 60s and all all the stuff that went into making this incredible music and effects that. Back then, you had to do it with tape loops, or you had to do it with, whatever you had to do.
If you wanted a sound effect, you had to go out and record that sound effect. You couldn't just go into your computer and go, oh, you know what? I need the sound of this.
It's a little too
You know
easy
what I mean?
now.
It is too easy now.
but,
I think that takes a little bit away of the sort of like, I don't even know how to describe it. But anyway, that's our top 3 keyboard intros. And why don't you leave your picks below? Also, we got a link to some of our merch down there also. And we'll see you next time in the shed.
And welcome back to the shed.
Somebody's taking their trash out. Is it trash
shit.
day?
I gotta get
Tomorrow's trash day.